we have to create the right vibe, the energy, and everybody at the organization has to feel so privileged to be here. It's no other way.
Thanks for listening to the Purely Arsenal podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at Purely Arsenal FP for all the latest Arsenal podcasts.
Welcome to another edition of a Purely Arsenal sit-down podcast. We're back as the three of us again, reviewing Arsenal 3, Bournemouth 0. Bournemouth, third form team in the league, and we hit them for free this weekend. Neil Shah, how you doing, Neil?
I'm good. We're doing what we can do, and we just wait for the miracle that is the City blip, or the 115 blip.
There you go. Neil's still believing. I know he is. I know Neil's still believing. If no one in the world is believing, Neil Shah's believing. And that's what he's here for. Really. James Johnstone with me as well. How you doing, James?
I'm very well. And yeah, like you said, if Neil believes, I believe. So I'm still on the train as well. Let's go.
There you go, you two boys. I'll tell you where you'll go. You might start making me believe, but to be honest. But I'd say it's hard. I put City's game on for a total of about 3 minutes, and then I was asking you boys what you're watching. I considered taking up WWE at that point, James, to be honest. But it's tough, but we're here to talk about Arsenal. And you know what I always say is you're sitting there, and I think I text you this. I'm like, I'm not going to have a 3-0 win feel like a defeat, because we got these financial Lance Armstrong dopers over here with cyborgs in their team scoring 12 goals a game. I'm just not going to have it, And look, I was worried. I think what Neil, you said on last week's podcast that in Bournemouth, in terms of footballing wise, they worried you the most. And I think, to be fair, you could see a little bit of that, certainly in the first 20 minutes of the second half. But overall, a terrific performance from Arsenal. Mikel Arteta said it was the best half of football that he'd seen from us in the first half. I'd concur with that. I think we were up there. I'd seen a few like that, to be fair, but I did think we were fantastic in the first half. Dropped off a little bit in the second half, but then, got the job done and were much more clinical, surprisingly, in the second half than we were in the first, with less chances. But, James, just before we get into the game, lineup. I think we also said last week that the team almost picks itself. We kind of collectively said, I think we almost stick with this now, barring any sort of big tactical changes or fitness issues and things like that. And that's basically what Mikel Arteta did. Let me ask you one quick question on the lineup, James. Do you think we stick with that continually? Now we've got big game away from home again. There's been some talk about us losing a little bit of control in games since Thomas Partey's come into the team in the last 3. I personally think that's true regarding Thomas Partey's way of playing, but I don't think it's necessarily down to him in these games. I think he's been quite good. What's your thoughts there, James? Would you do anything different in the next 2, or do you still agree with what we said last week?
Yeah, I don't think that this changes. Unfortunately, for me, as much as me and the man down below on my screen love Leandro Trossard, you do believe that the development of Martinelli, although he is having quite possibly his poorest season with us, and the thing with Trossard is, again, I don't want to jump the gun too much, so rein me in if you need to, but we all thought that he had a quiet game. We were all thinking, like, he's got to come off here now. But and I would say he probably is the most clinical finisher that we have at the club. And you can't take him off, because if you do have that one snapshot chance, he's probably the best guy that you want to take it. And he did. And that's why he keeps playing, because eventually he probably will score goals. So you can't take him out. And I always say that, for me, the names on the back of the shirt don't matter. It's what you're doing. It's on merit. And as much as I still have reservations about certain people that are in the team, i.e. Partey, I will put my hands up. I think since he's come in, he's done very, very well. And I think he's made the others that are around him much better. I think Odegaard and Declan Rice, knowing that he's there and he's more mobile, can be like, well, I can get an extra 10 yards up the pitch with him there because he can recover in time if needed. So they're getting a bit more freedom. I mean, we quickly, briefly spoke about it last week before, unfortunately, I got it wrong and I had to leave. But we were talking about Havertz and how the energy that he's now got, the others are feeding off him and bouncing around. But I think there's a lot of them that are doing the same with Thomas Partey. And it does make me think that what could have happened in that whole 7 months that he was away, how would we be points, would we be streets ahead now with Thomas Partey because Declan Rice is, he's assisting more, he's scoring more. It does make you wonder, but then we get into the big what if game and it's not a game that you really want to play. But yeah, no, in terms of your original question, barring, and again, please, because we finally got a fully fit squad, even though we've only got 2 games left of the season, the typical our luck. I can't think, unless something drastic happens in one of these games or in training, that anything's going to change here, Jet.
No, I agree. It does feel like that. And it's when you worry about teams finding you out, you've got to change things because teams are going to find out the way you play. I feel like with Thomas Partey, the one thing we're absolutely certain of is Thomas Partey there, Havertz up front, with the way this team is currently set up, we are just going to create a huge amount of chances. I don't think anyone's going to stop it. I don't think anyone's going to stop it. What we might do is be a bit more vulnerable at the back, but we've got to go for it, especially when you go away to United. Do you want to go there and be controlled like we were away at Chelsea, away at Newcastle, and that we need to go there and dominate in order to win that game. Now, then what you're saying is, well, are we risking missing big chances because they're going to create a few, but we're going to create a ton more? That's if that's what we really believe. So then you've got to be a bit more clinical than you were in this first half. But we created 25 shots yesterday against Bournemouth. We created 27 against Chelsea at home. I mean, this is a lot more than we were creating with Jorginho at the base. I haven't got the numbers, but I know it is. I mean, you can feel it. You can feel you're creating better, clear-cut chances. 4.3 XG, I think, yesterday, something close to that against Chelsea as well. Just a huge volume of chances, and I do think it's really key. I think even though Thomas Partey, I think he had a lower pass percentage, somewhere around 79% yesterday, it's the types of passes he attempts, sure, can be a bit more risky, but I think we've got the setup around him now to protect that a little bit more, And I agree with you on Trossard. I thought James Bench put out a great tweet. Did you see his tweet? He said since he arrived, Trossard has 0.085 non-penalty goals and assists per 90 minutes. And there's only 5 players in the league that have better ratio than that. It's De Bruyne, Jota, Haaland, Wilson and Salah. I mean, you wouldn't think Trossard was in that bracket. Well, we might, but the average fan probably wouldn't. I mean, he has been absolutely incredible since he's come in. And like you, I mean, I was saying in my head, get Trossard off. I think he's been largely ineffective in this game. I didn't think he was largely super involved, but that he's probably the most clinical out of the front three currently, and the other options on the left, they're way off in terms of that, right? It's either Gabriel Jesus, who's the exact opposite of that, or it's Gabriel Martinelli, who's in a tough vein of form. I'm sure we all support him to push through that, but this isn't the time to test that, is it? It's really not the time to test it. But Neil, thoughts on the first half? I thought we were terrific. I'm going to get to the VAR questions. I'm going to just do them all 3 as one, so we'll do that afterwards. But in terms of footballing wise, they're a really good team, right? We've spoke about this already. They're actually a very, very good team, and we absolutely played them off on the park. It was something like 16 shots or something in the first half. It was just incredible and quite frustrating, but fantastic, Neil.
Yeah, they are a good team. They got a great record in the Prem. I think they hadn't not scored since the early part of the season, and they had their form. I think in 2024 was joint second to us with City, something like that in terms of points. So they're a damn good team. But we didn't really give them anything in that first half, as far as I remember. Maybe a few scraps. But we were just in such dominant control. I think we broke or equaled. Well, no, we had the best first 20 minutes. We got 11 shots on target, which is, I think, the record for this season. That's how dominant we were. It's ridiculous. I mean, I think at the end of the game, every outfield player had a shot on target. I'm not sure if you guys know that.
That's true.
Yes. Yeah.
Saliba as well. Oh, yeah. Sorry,
Saliba did. Saliba could have shown us his striker prowess if that ball had gone in, and he did everything right, by the way. Just got in between the legs.
Fantastic, by the way. Yeah, carry on.
And that was a great nutmeg by Saka to set it up. I mean, that's the kind of stuff we were doing. Do you know what? Just speaking about the left position, which I think has been the most disjointed of the unit of the season, I actually thought Tomiyasu was doing some really good stuff. He put a couple of great balls into the penalty box. That one that Havertz controlled really well, and he just shot and, he caught the keeper, but that would have been a great goal. And there was another one that he put through, but that just was basically a ball trail of exactly what everyone was doing. Odegaard, there was a pass where he did, which again cut through about 4 defenders. I think it was on the right hand side a little bit early in the first half, and they were all at it, every single one of them. It was just unfortunate that we weren't finishing the chances, because I mean, even Arteta said it goes at the start. Rice said it as well. He said we've got to be more clinical up front, because if we were, we could have been 3, 4, 5 up again in the first half. I'm just glad that the penalty came at the right time, so we at least had something to show for all our efforts at half time. And it was good, always good to score just before half time, isn't it? It's always a great time to score. So thankfully that was there, it was given, and we had that, Saka cool as cucumber, which is ridiculous. But I really was impressed with Tomiyasu. Havertz again was doing his thing. He could have scored, he could have assisted. They all could have had numerous assists and numerous goals, and not just by 1 or 2 people, but by quite a few players, because they were all on song, weren't they? We're almost like singing from the same hymn sheet. You know what? I'm struggling to find moments, because even though I watched the highlights, there's just so many. There's just so many chances. It was ridiculous, wasn't it? Trossard could have had a few, and just quickly, just on the Trossard Martinelli thing, I think Martinelli is struggling with form, but and Trossard as well. I always felt that he comes on, or he's more effective as an impact sub. And I felt he was ineffective. And then he's one of these kind of players that he can be quite quiet in a whole game. Even Henry used to do it. And then he's got that moment, just that one moment. And I feel
it's such a crucial moment as well, wasn't it, Neil?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I just feel that both of them, they don't have any consistency behind them. And I think that's the problem. I think we might have discussed this last week.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I can't, I don't want to throw all the blame at those 2 players. Saka's just always had White behind him, but those 2 haven't had that. So I just wanted to mention it. But and again, with Partey, I think you're right. I mean, with Jorginho, you have more control. Of course you do. But Partey, I think, I will answer that. We have to play him because we have to take risks. We've got no choice. We have to get 6 points in the last 2 games. That involves taking risks. And I think for a couple of the goals, I might be wrong, it's Partey again. He's laying that pass, that first pass or the second pass in the run, to get the ball moving very quickly up front. It's just one touch. That's it. And he's got that kind of vision, hasn't he? And he had a couple of shots as well, by the way.
Over the bar.
And the freedom that he is giving Mr. Engine, which is Rice. My God, what an engine that man has got. I know we'll do the Chronicle Lordship, but just a quick one on the second and third goal. He's at the bottom. He's in our penalty box, literally running the full length of the pitch. And to do that when his goal, which is in the 120th or 560th minute, is just ridiculous. Rice is something else, and I think he deserved his man of the match, by the way.
Yeah, you know me, I'll give it to Odegaard, but I understand when the final goal went in. I understand. I know it's hard in the first half to think of individual chances. To be fair, I think Rice alluded to it. His was probably the biggest. He was probably the biggest culprit in the first half. It was a really, good chance, and he didn't even get on target. He just lashed at it and he didn't get it on target. The other ones, I mean, Trossard could have had a couple in the first half. They were blocked very well, in fairness, by Bournemouth, and I think he ballooned one over the bar, and Rice did, and Partey did, and obviously the Saliba one that I completely forgot that you mentioned, Neil, was a fantastic move. And but again, you can't really moan at Saliba for that, because you don't really expect him up there, do you? Your case of the Christian Romero's, but Romero just stays up there and he's a donkey, so that's the difference. But yeah, but James, thoughts a little bit on the first half, and then I think we should discuss. I'm sure Neil's going to want to touch in on this, the VAR decisions, and I think it's just easy to collectively discuss them. I know one happens in the second half, so it is important to the Christie one happens first on Saka, and then of course there's the penalty incident. So we'll get to the first goal, and then there's their goal that was disallowed in the second half. What was your thoughts on those three incidences? And feel free to touch on first half stuff as well, because we're not done there yet.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll take the three instances into account, right? The first one, again, like we always say, I'm absolutely baffled there, Jack. Now, I've seen some people. I wouldn't say they're reputable sources, because in terms of football journalism these days, I think you can count reputable sources on one hand, if that. And there's a lot of them that say, well, before that movement begins, Saka sort of controls the ball with his hand. It's like it bubbled up and then it comes down. And I'm like, hang on a sec here, because regardless of if it's handball and everything, he still goes through him anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can be like, yeah, it's a handball and it's a Bournemouth, whatever, but he's still completely, and I mean, he slashes his leg. Like, his leg's bleeding. There's an open wound. He's literally showing the ref, like, excuse me. It probably says it in a much harsher way than I've put there. But he's pointed to it like, come on. Everyone else around him's like, what the hell? And it was absolutely baffling. It was baffling. And then that guy, Christie, just routinely fouled for the rest of the game.
I think that's the really important part as well.
Yeah. And I think it took until about, at least, I want to say, and I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me here. I could pull it up, but I don't, I'm trying to look
late
professional.
In the game.
It was at least 77 minutes.
Very late.
If I've got that wrong, then flame me in the comments. But yeah, it was definitely. I mean, I think we had 2 or 3 booked before he eventually did get booked. I think Havertz, Partey, and Ben White definitely got booked before he did.
Yeah. And
I'm like, he would not be routinely fouling.
No.
If if it wasn't a red, he at least had to get booked for it, at least. Yeah. And I have no idea whatsoever why that wasn't given. The second one, the Havertz one, again, who's your reputable source? And again, this is where it gets into the whole, as an Arsenal fan, we nibble. And that's why they do it, because we give them the clicks, we give them the views with everything else. I don't like nibbling, but I'm going to have to nibble here. I have seen Mo Salah, Son, Vardy, Harry Kane made a career of it. Jota, Doku, Grealish, Rashford. We can name hundreds and hundreds of players that have done the similar sort of thing. Oh, yeah, but that's really intelligent play. It's clever. As soon as Kai Havertz does it, cheat. Game of Thrones, shame. He's thinking like a centre forward. He's thinking now, with all of what's going around, I've got to be a bit smarter. And like he said in his interview post-game, I don't know if you saw it, Jack, he did kick me. He's like, regardless if I've left my leg there, whatever, he's kicked me. He's like, I felt contact, he kicked me. And so, in the letter of the law now, it's a penalty, but then you've got people that are like, oh yeah, but when he's at that angle and everything else that he's doing, where's the advantage? Like he's not clever enough to cut back in and score a goal. Doesn't matter. If he does that anywhere else on the pitch, we're getting a free kick for it. But he's done it in the box, so it's a penalty.
I think the key there is it's not his job to get his leg out of the way.
No.
The goalkeeper's lunged in, missed the ball.
Yeah.
It's not his job to get his leg out of the way. If he wants to run, I was actually proud of him for doing that, because that's not something we do. And he was never scoring from that. That is what was really clever from him. He was never scoring from that angle. He didn't do anything wrong. His first touch was nice. And it's a great ball from Odegaard. But he's never scoring from that. And it's so clever. I mean, he was amazing again. But I remember seeing that thinking, we've missed a lot of chances. You've missed one or two. We're a bit tetchy. What a clever thing to do.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good. Striker play, like you say. Sorry, carry on, Jay.
Yeah, no, well, this is what I don't understand. Is that, he's now, been labelled a cheat, and you got all the other people that are constantly going for us and everything else, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And then the third one, I guess you're alluding to the moment in the second half with them. Now, for me, being brutally honest, I think that Solanke does push him, David Raya. I don't think it's really enough. And it's no more than what we've been doing to people. However, I think that we're more lucky on the Saliba incident, because for me, as much as we've lauded him just now, that is absolutely idiotic what he did with Billing. And that was even before. I'm shocked. And like I was putting to you in the WhatsApp, I can't believe, thank God we finally got some luck with the AR. But I'm like, I cannot believe that they haven't rewound that to see that he's done, before even that Solanke and Raya incident happens, he's pulled Philip Billing to the ground. So I was like, surely they're watching that first and going, well, ignore this here. That's a penalty. And again, I can back any Bournemouth fan that goes, okay, don't give us the goal, but you've at least got to give us a penalty. Because to me, I thought pen then, and I still think pen now, because it was a absolute brain fart from Saliba. Because Philip Billing is, I think he's at least 6'5", 6'6", so he's probably panicking, thinking if that bobbles, he's got the jump on me header wise. I know Saliba's 6'3", but still, Billing's not no slouch, and I think he just panicked at potentially having an aerial duel there that he weren't going to win, and he just pulled him to the ground.
I think you're right on all three. I'd agree with your points.
And then, sorry, just to add as well, sorry, because I've got it in my head and I don't want to lose it. The initial Havertz one, when they were looking for the offside, Jack, that's it. Yeah, I was like, we've all seen it. We've all seen Odegaard's put the ball in precise. Like I'm like, he's definitely not offside. I'm like, you're just clutching now. I'm like, you're literally clutching. I'm like, we all, Stevie Wonder knows that Havertz is onside there. Oh, it's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. I think ultimately they stuck with all three on-field decisions. And I think to a certain degree, not quite on the first one, but to a certain degree, you can kind of get why. It reminded me, their goal reminded me of our goal that got disallowed at Villa when Havertz handballed it. And we were all going, but Cash handballed it before he did. So give the goal. But that wasn't the rule, because the rule was if your hand is involved in a play at all that you then score from, you can't give the goal. That is the rule. And with this, if someone's impeded someone that has let a goalkeeper who then got the ball, Billing and Saliba did not touch the ball, you then have to probably stick with the on-field decision and disallow it. I agree with you though. Saliba's silly. I think it's lucky. I think it's poor collectively defensively at that moment. We switch off, and I think we get away with one there. But the other two, I think, I think we should be just as aggrieved by Christie one. I mean, look, we had Vieira that did a almost identical tackle earlier in the season, and we were all having a right go at Vieira. We're like, that's a ridiculously poor tackle, high at the shin, lazy, etc. This was just the same, just as bad. And Christie's fouls, everyone's acting like, oh, he just made... His fouls were bad after it. The one he got booked for was like a scissor challenge, I think, on Rice. He also pulled Gabriel's shirt back sillily and then started shouting abuse at the ref. And he should have gone a few times. That's what annoyed me more. That it was the same in the Nicholas Jackson one. You know, I'm like, now he's having a big effect on the game. He's able to hurt people continually, and he should have gone already. And that, I think we've got a right to be aggrieved with that because of the accumulation over the last 4 games. I mean, there's been 3, 2 definite red cards. This one was the one that was a bit sort of orange red, you know. But the Jackson one and the Kilman one was shockingly bad. The fact that neither of those got reviewed, that was really, really bad. So the narrative that we've been lucky, that throws that out completely, because we've had some terrible decisions against us. But I agree with you on all those 3. Neil, do you anything to add on the VAR and the ref stuff?
Yeah, just quickly, I think I agree with everything both of you have said. With the Saka and the tackle from Christie, what's it going to take? Do we want another Eduardo, Ramsey, Diaby before anything goes wrong? We've had what we had recently. We've had Kai, Tomiyasu, we had Rice, we've had this one. I mean, I'm sorry, what? Not even, we've had 1 or 2 yellow cards in those 4 alone between them, where effectively, for me, they're all red cards and probably a ban as well, because they're dangerous tackles. I'm not having anyone tell me anything else. They're dangerous tackles, and we've seen legs broken, snapped, hanging off these players, ending 2 careers for me out of the 3. Ramsey, I think, because he was a bit younger, was a little bit lucky. But to be honest, I still think he probably would have been a better player if not for that tackle, by the way. And I'm livid. I'm absolutely sick and tired of, or even when whatever platform we're watching, they just skim over that, and they're more concerned with Ben White fingertipping goalkeepers. They're more concerned with, oh, look at Havertz being a cheat, but it doesn't matter. All the other strikers do it. Well, until there's a rule to say that's not allowed, do it. Okay? Do it. I'm absolutely fuming, right? But they're more concerned with stuff like that. So they're almost concerned with stuff like that, whereas a young player's career could be completely finished. And like you said, he's carried on and done it, going even further. He's done it again and again. And it's not until almost the match is finished, I will give you a yellow card now. Guy should have been off ages ago, because he could be ending careers here. I'm sick of it. I'm so sick of it. And then we get treated as the villain all the time. You know, looking for an offside when there's no offside to even look at. Yes, I agree with their disallowed goal. That was probably harsh on them. I agree, but they should have been down to 10 men anyway. No one looks at that, do they? You know, you watch Match of the Day. It's skimmed over just because Ian Wright's on the show. A little bit, it's skimmed over, and then that's it. Oh no, but we're more concerned about whatever favouritism Arsenal get all the time. I've had enough. This narrative has been going on for so many years. I've had enough of it. It's just, I'm going to swear, it's bullshit, and that's what I'm going to say on it.
Yeah, well, that's why I had to call out what Souness said in the papers. I had to call out. I'm like, you can't be this hypocritical, Graham. I mean, all these ex-players coming out with, these remarks on cheating when Gary Neville, Gary Neville made a living out of kicking Reyes out of football. Graham Souness, he used to go into games trying to break people's legs, as you've seen from a tweet. But that frustrates me, because what it does, it gets back to the PGMO, it gets back into the referee's mind, and then suddenly you've got this sort of agenda and favouritism towards or against certain Arsenal players for just standing their ground, which tons of people do, because they do it with a little bit of a gimmick and things like that. That frustrates me a little bit, James.
Well, it makes me laugh. It makes me laugh, Jack, because for years there's this whole narrative that we're not clever and that we're soft, and it's the whole just the cojones thing, and then it's also well Arsenal will just, if you get it up them, they'll roll over and let you tickle their belly. Well, now that we're giving it a bit back, it's like I put, and it was one of my, I think it's one of my most popular tweets of all time, where I've said this basically the same as Neil, where I've put Ben White touches a goalkeeper's glove and he's being trialled like he's an international war criminal. Yet Saka's been stamped on, and as much as, Phil Foden won the Football Writers Player. He hasn't won the Premier League Player of the Season. He won the Football Writers Player of the Season. For me, as much as I don't like him as a person, I begrudgingly have to give it to him for his talent. But if you want to take bias away, the last 2 tournaments, I mean, I hate international football anyway, but the last 2 tournaments, Bukayo Saka's been England's best player. So basically, England's best player, which, you protected a bloke who, when it come to the crunch and he had penalties against France, the ball ended up in my garden. Okay, Saka missed his penalty in the Euros, but that's by the by. You'd think that you'd protect what is arguably one of your best assets going into a tournament, which, being brutally honest, unless the French muck up again with themselves, because sometimes they become individuals and not a team, or the Germans who are going through a transition. England are probably second favourites next to, for me, England are probably the second best team in that whole tournament next to France. We won't win it, but on paper, and I'm like, you'd think you'd protect this player, wouldn't you, with that coming up? But yet still, no, it's Arsenal, and again, like I put in the WhatsApp group, this is why I've got so much respect for this lad, because this lad really should be going absolutely mental. If he wanted to, he could go to the club and be like, make me a highlight reel sort of package of all these, because we've got him in our heads. We can go back to MacArthur volleying him like he's a football. There's so many of them that we can think. And he should be going to the refs or whatever. Look at this. And where is my, I know that there's times before where people have asked for special treatment for players. It's not necessarily I want special treatment. It's just let's have some fucking common sense here. Like Neil said, for God's sake. Jack, if I didn't support Arsenal and I was watching just as a neutral, I would still be going, this lad's getting mullered. And again, it's a testament to how good he is. But also, I think that everyone always goes on about his skill and his finesse and everything. Look at look at the smile. He's such a lovely guy and everything else. And that's all. But this guy's strength, not only, of character, his physical makeup. I mean, God knows what he's going to be like when he gets to my age. I hope he's still in the game. Like Neil said, I really do hope he's still in the game, because I hate saying it, Neil, but you are right. I think something like that, something like those incidents that you mentioned with those 3 players before, is going to happen. It is. Yeah. And I'm like, but then that still won't change them. That's the thing. They're so inept. That even something like that will still not change them.
Yeah, and I think the frustration is we understand not wanting to rely upon VAR at all times and not, and trying to stick with ref decisions on the field when it's not clear and obvious, etc. But that doesn't really make a lot of sense with leg breaking tackles and dangerous play. That's not what it's there to do. That is literally why it was brought in. It was brought in to eradicate these things and see these things that you weren't seeing, see these dreadful leg breaking tackles that somehow the ref missed, like Roy Keane on Haaland and Souness on the player, and these ones that somehow are missed in the speed of the game. And we've had 3 of those in the last 4 games, and none of them have been called upon because they want to stick with the ref's decision, and they are about as clear and obvious as you can get. So that's the frustration, and they can really hurt someone, like you say, and they create this theory in these players' minds that we can get away with this, and that's the problem. Like you said, that's where it leads to these catastrophic injuries, because they think they can get away with it, and they think, that'll put them off their game if I lay one on them in the first 10. And there's a reason a lot of these happen early in the games as well. But very frustrating in terms of that. I think overall we can't moan in this game collectively about VAR, because like we said with that last goal, maybe we got away with one, but again, the game would have been completely different with 10 men. I mean, they were struggling with 11, let's be honest. So that could be frustrating for Arsenal. And I always say, go back to when we win games comfortably, we sometimes collectively forget to talk about some really terrible decisions that have gone against us, in the season, and no one does either. The Tomiyasu double yellow at Palace, just because we got out for a win there doesn't change the fact that it was the worst red card you've given all season, and that kind of stuff. So I feel like it should get talked about a little bit, but we should focus on the game too, and we definitely should stick with Bukayo Saka, Neil, who puts away his penalty, lovely, steps up. I think he created history by taking that penalty. God, I had the stat up and now I don't have it. I had it somewhere. There we go. Saka, first player to score 20 goals for Arsenal since Aubameyang in 2019-2020. First Englishman to do so for the club since Theo Walcott in 12-13. There was also a stat that linked him to Ian Wright, but for the life of me, I can't remember what it was. But maybe, Neil, you'll be able to tell me. Saka, I know it's from the penalty spot, but unbelievable. I don't know how many it is, 30 plus goal involvements this season, and he's still going, and I think he's been back to his best in the last 3-0.
Well, you say that, but we've also been saying that he's probably had one of his poorest seasons, and look, he's still got the numbers, isn't he? Still got the numbers, and that's incredible. Is it 16 goals? It matched Ian Wright, James.
Oh, that's what it is. 16, 9 assists, yeah.
First English
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Just insane. And he's still 2 games left, so he might eclipse that. Hopefully he does. I don't know what else. I think James summed it up there. James, I just want to change one word you used. You said inept about the I'd say anti-Arsenal rather than inept. But you know me, I've got a conspiracy theory head. It's true though. It's just disgusting.
Yeah, they're all lizards, mate. They're all lizards.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is incredible. If you just take what James said about how he gets clattered constantly, his resilience to injuries is something else.
Yeah.
And touch wood, it remains for the rest of his career, because he's just going to get battered. And I always cite Gascoigne, Shearer, Rooney, protected, because they were the darlings of the England team. Well, Saka's the darling of the England. Is he not? Is he probably arguably been the England's best player for a couple of years? But no, he doesn't get any protection simply because he wears something called a cannon on his chest. It disgusts me. But having said all of that, he just gets up and gets on with it. How many times have we said, guys, if we got to arrest him because he looked shot in that game. He's limping around. He's back. 3 days later, he's back playing. And then he just always does it. And I think you're right, Jack. I think we've seen a better Saka in the last 3 games. I don't think he's had the best season because he had put that level so high, that bar. He'd raised it himself, that even the slightest nuance from it, you're like, oh, God, he's not playing well. But that's because we expect so much from him all the time. But I just can't get over what kind of player we've got here, and he's homegrown. That's what I love about it, absolutely. And I can see him staying with us if we bag a couple of major trophies in the next 2 years. I think he'll stay. I think he might finish his career with us. I really believe that. I would like to think so anyway, because he can only get better, because he's not even at his peak. He's nowhere near his peak age yet, is he? So he's only going to get better. That's quite frightening when you think about it. Everything he does, it's just like, apart from finishing a couple of chances, I'd say he was the perfect article in that first half. I don't know if you guys agree, but I think so. And that just sums up that he's probably back to his best. Sadly, it's near the end of the season, and we've got to wait again now until next season starts. But if he carries on from the last 3 games, the start of next season, plus we've got Timber, God help our opponents. That's what I'm going to say. I think we're going to have a very, very good team at the beginning of next season because of a certain player that's going to be like a new signing to us. We've seen what he's potentially capable of. And then you've got Saka, who's starting to come to his best again. I don't know what else to say, but look, that penalty, you'd think that he's just, number one, got an empty net to go at because there's no fear whatsoever in him. But the pressure that I think any other player would have been under maybe might have affected him. He's just like, yeah, whatever. He takes even a shorter run up than usual. That just shows how much confidence the guy's got. Just slots it in, no problem. Yeah. So what? It's a penalty. Nothing at all on him, and I respect him for that completely. And for me, that sums him up, guys. He's a different level. for me.
Yeah.
What I like, Neil, when I saw it, it become a big thing, didn't it, after the Porto game? When we get these penalties, we take a long time before we actually strike the ball. And someone, I think, put it up that it was 13 seconds before he actually did the run up and everything, to hit the ball. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I like. I'm like, we think, they're like, let's suck it all in, everything that's going on around me and everything. And then, to slot it how he slotted it. And as well, I just want to jump in here quick if I can. It's very tough when incidents like this happen to try. I know a lot of people use it as political posturing. For me, I find that disgusting. Earlier in the week, a 14-year-old boy, I know that you're a father, Jack. I know Michael's a father. I know, Neil, you've got nephews, I believe. This was a kid that was just walking to school, 14 years of age, has his whole life in front of him. And he tragically had his life taken in one of the most brutal and barbaric ways that you can imagine. From what I read, obviously the kid was a big Arsenal fan, and I also read that Bukayo Saka was his favourite player, and I believe that he had a picture of Bukayo Saka on his wall. So, for me, if that can give the family at this time any kind of, comfort or joy, then I was so glad. It was one of them where I was like, do you know what? It's a massive goal. But at the same point, I'm like, if anyone could have scored a goal today for that young man, then, thank God it was Bukayo Saka, because you never know. This kid was 14. Apparently he was, as well as being a very good academic, he was a brilliant, he's very good at his sports and everything. This kid could have become a Bukayo Saka, but he didn't have the chance to. And I just wanted to throw that in there, that I thought what we're always very classy anyway as a club and as a fan base. We're the only club that when the Hillsborough anniversaries are on, as much as I don't get on with Liverpool and don't like Liverpool, they always say you are the only club that never say anything when you do the Hillsborough thing. And I think that goes back to we played them in that cup final the year that Rocastle died, and they were very, very respectful back for that. So I think it's a bit, we've got a lot of that there. But I just thought I'd mention that just quickly before, again, we forget. But it was a great, for me, as much as it was a great moment for all of us as well, I thought it was lovely that Saka was the one to do it for Dan.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm so glad you mentioned that, James. And talking about the Hillsborough thing, it was actually, if you remember, the Anfield at the start of the game, all the Arsenal players with a bunch of flowers. And I think we've just shown class right from the start, to be honest. We've always been that way. I remember the days when George Graham would never be seen in anything other than a suit and a tie and very polished as a manager. And I think we've just been a class club from day one, really. And, and we've got all the history, unlike certain two clubs which have been manufactured their success through money. But I thought, and charges which never get pressed. But there you go.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of mutual respect between the clubs, Arsenal and Liverpool, because they've been built very similarly. The fan base is, they bicker, but I think a large portion of that is because of the similarities. I think a large reason that you don't want that team to win or the other team to win is you can see a lot of yourself in those teams. In terms of the way they've been built and the way they intend to play the game, the type of managers they employ and things like that. I think there is quite a lot of similarity between them. I always say this to Liverpool fans that I constantly argue with. I'm like, there is actually, when you think about it, there is quite a lot of similarity. But now, well said, the club, they did the round of applause and the banner and everything like that. And I know Saka dedicated it to him in his posts, which was really touching, but just a tragic story, just a horrible story, really. But just on Saka, I think he's the best right winger in the league. He's the best right winger in the league. Let's be honest. He's overtaken Salah. I watched Salah again. I've been watching every Liverpool game because we're built to now. We're in a 3-horse race. He's had a major drop-off since January, Salah. I know he had injuries and he had the international tournament and stuff like that, but he's had a major drop-off. Now, he might come back. Salah's that good. He can just come back and, a few months off. I'm not saying he has. But in this season, Saka has taken over Salah. And the reason I say that is if his stat numbers are anywhere close to Salah, he's overtaken him, because Salah is a free player for Liverpool. He doesn't play like Saka does. They're completely different players. He doesn't have remotely the defensive numbers that Saka does in terms of what he has to do for the team to support his right back and stuff like that. That's why Liverpool constantly get hurt down the right side, because they play Trent behind him as well. So, Salah is fantastic. I'm kind of shocked at the abuse he gets from his own fan base at times, but I think Saka's overtaken him. I think he's the best right winger in the league. I know there's talk about Cole Palmer, but I'm sorry, I can't take that seriously. I can't take mid-table fodder seriously at this point in time. Let's see what happens when they get closer to the top of the league. Can't be doing that. But I think he's overtaken him, and I think James alluded to it last week. He's finishing the season strongly. Which. That's one argument you've had in previous, even last season, which was his best season. He faded. Season before that faded, and he's finishing this season really strongly. I think he's been one of our best players in the last 3, and let's hope he can continue that, because if he is, we've got a real chance, because he is one of our best players. So, no, fantastic, and I like the way he waits on the penalties and stuff like that. Yeah, I really like it. Sort of wait to see where the keeper goes almost as well. So no, really, really happy that it calmed us. I think a little bit. 1-0. You felt you needed more, but it was great that we got the goal. And then in the second half, James, I'll stick with you. In the second half, there was a 20-minute period where we looked like we tired a little bit, and we just got a little bit sloppy. I thought Gabriel was a little sloppy. I thought we collectively were a little sloppy, and they had a few little openings. I mean, they only had 0.39 XG. The main chance I remember was the Solanke one that David Raya saved pretty well, and Clive, I think, hit one wide. But James, were you concerned there? I was a little tetchy at that point.
Yeah, it seemed that obviously, again, I don't want to be cliche, but obviously 1-0 is always the most annoying sort of scoreline, isn't it? And I think they come out, and I think they pushed us back a bit. They pushed us back a good 10 to 12 yards there, Jack. And they sort of got a bit of belief in themselves and got in a bit of an ascendancy. And we go and use that word control that we've used quite a lot so far already in this podcast. I think we surrendered a bit of the control there, and it took a big moment, obviously, to win it back, which we did with the Trossard. The Trossard goal for me just then oozed calm into the side, really, which was brilliant. But yeah, they did have some very, very good little openings there and everything. And it's like we mentioned, they're a tricky side. I mean, for me, I look at it and I think to myself, he's got them playing like this. And the majority of these are the old Eddie Howe, sort of Gary O'Neill era players. They keep trusting in him to bring more players in that can do the sort of style that he likes. Bournemouth could be a formidable sort of, I don't see him ever getting in a top 4 or top 6, but they could definitely push for that 7th. They
like
could definitely.
were.
Yeah, they've definitely got the makeup to do it. If they get better, sort of. Well, this is it. But I'm like, he will get poached by a bigger club eventually, because he's just I think he's a very, very good manager. He plays football in the best way. I mean, before, when we faced Bournemouth, we know that they've been annoying. They've always had sort of big. I remember they had that Welsh centre back. Was it Mepham? Chris Mepham or whatever. He was like 6'6", and he just wins every header and he digs his elbows into your back when you're trying to get. And they were just annoying side. But he's got them play. I think that's the best Bournemouth I've definitely seen in the whole time that we've played against. He's got them doing bits that other clubs would be proud of, some of the routes to goal and everything else that they're doing. But we definitely surrendered a bit there, but obviously pulled it back, and thank God we did. I mean, Declan Rice at the end there, what was it, 95 minutes or whatever, and he's still running like that. That's what I love about this team, Jack. They do not give in. And I think that's because they were so close last year and they fumbled it, and they don't want to fumble it again. I mean, you said at the beginning of the podcast, you don't see it happening. But me and Neil obviously have got the old optimism galore, haven't we, Neil? But Well, at least take it to the last day. At least. That's if you're not gonna win it, at least give yourself a chance on the last day. Make it difficult. Because they that's the annoying thing, is that however much they're good on the football pitch, they've got the best manager, they are financially doped and everything else, they do win it at a canter. Okay, Liverpool ran them quite far in one of those seasons.
They got 97 and 92 points and lost it, Liverpool. 97 and 92.
But I'm like, they do normally they've got it sewn up and dry very, very easily normally, and that irks me sometimes.
Yeah, no, exactly. You've got to push them all the way. You've got to test them. Obviously, they definitely turned up to that test multiple times. But I agree with you. I mean, and in that respect, if you win the next one, which we're going to get onto, if you win the next one, you take it to the last 2 days for them. That's what you do. You take it to the last 2 days for them, and we'll talk about that because they obviously play 2 games in that final week, don't they? Or that lead up. So that's how massive next week is for us. We can only control our destiny in terms of winning our game. So and we did that this weekend. But yeah, Neil, the second goal, again, Rice heavily involved. Brilliant move. And that's the difference in Trossard. We alluded to it earlier with the stats on him, but I was at the point where I was like, I think we should get him off. He's largely been ineffective, and he's so often the guy that shows up when you really need a goal. He scores so many important goals as well. Neil, 25 odd million, 27 maybe tops. He's been an incredible signing. I mean, just absolutely brilliant, Neil, and not really brought in as a starter. Not really brought in even as our first choice, if you're to believe some of the strong, heavily linked rumours. But, man, what a signing.
And Chelsea must have been laughing at us when they stole Mudryk and Caicedo, and we got Jorginho, their reject. And, we got Trossard. And now look at us and look at them. Who's having the last laugh, eh? Who's having the last laugh?
Exactly.
Idiots. Anyway, yeah, he's I'm a big fan of his, as James always mentions, and I love the guy. I love the guy. The weird thing is, I love Martinelli and Trossard probably the same. It's just so bizarre, and yet they're fighting for the same position. It's crazy. I still feel Martinelli should have a chance at one point in his career with us in the centre, but hey, I don't think that's going to happen. It's just one of those. We got.
Feels like we move further away from that, doesn't it? Sorry, Neil, but yeah.
Yeah, no. But Trossard is just he's one of these players where he can come on as a sub, as I mentioned earlier, and he's just devastating. He will always do something. He may not necessarily get the assist, he may not necessarily get the goal, but he's always adding something different, a different dimension to the team, especially when we need it. But in this game, it was different. He was ineffective. Even I was thinking, give Martinelli a chance now. It might be his day. It might be his day to get a goal, which he so desperately needs. We said it in the last pod, Jack. He needs a goal. He so desperately needs a goal. But then it just comes up with something like that. That was a great finish. As good as that reverse pass was from Rice, and that was again showing his strength. By the way, Rice. I'm so glad we've got the likes of him and Havertz in the team. So they're unbelievably strong. But it was a great reverse pass. But that was still, if you look at the finish, it wasn't an easy finish. And he put it away like it was. He's scoring for fun literally every week, which he isn't. Wish he was, but he's still got the numbers. And I think you're right. I think probably as good as some of our players are, out of finishing wise, he's probably the best. He's the most clinical. And to have a player like that where you're thinking we need to sub him because he's not effective, and then he comes on and does, or he has a moment of 10-second brilliance when we need it as well. Because I think, 1-0, and I think we did look in control. It was one of those 1-0s where you felt we looked in control. Look, we've taken 17 wins when we've been at half time in the lead. We're no longer that team that's giving up leads anymore. We take the lead, we win the game. It's one of those, yeah. But you never know, do you? You never know. 1-0 is never enough, especially for us. So we desperately needed that goal. So it came at the right time. Like you very much said about the penalty, came at the right time. So did this one. And I think that was it. Once that had gone in, there's no way back for Bournemouth. I love him. I just hope he stays for another couple of years with us. I don't know if that's what's in their mind. But he came on. He's quite an older player as well, isn't he? But he doesn't seem to show it. He's full of enthusiasm. He gives good talks at the interviews as well when he's interviewed. He does love the club. He's got a lot of time for Arteta and the players around him. I'm just blessed that we got him. But I don't know what else to say. He's just a clinical finisher. He's very useful, and he's got to be part of our big plans in future, at least for the next 2 seasons for me.
Yeah, and we can tell it's his big move of his career, and he really wants to take everything from every moment. You saw, I loved watching back the Porto penalty shootout and just watching his reactions, because you could tell, first time in the Champions League for him. He's 28, but what it means to him. He's really been through. He's gone through. Got mid-table of the Premier League. He was at Genk, I think, before that. He's never played in the Champions League, and he's Champions League level player, and then he's made a huge impact in that competition this season. I know he got knocked out in the quarterfinals, but he made his mark just like he has done in the Premier League, and now he's in his best goal scoring season for us, even though he hasn't started that many games for us. I think he's got 11 now. He's one of 3 players at the club with double figures alongside Saka and Havertz, and we're not far away to get 4.
Sorry to interrupt very quickly, Jack. I'll say it again. I think in the history, since the January window opened and became a thing, I think he's our best January signing.
Yes.
I can't think of anyone else.
No,
of anyone else.
And we've had a few good ones. So he's been terrific. James, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I think obviously I was a big Monreal fan. So I always say that Monreal's up there with January signings.
So Nacho.
Obviously, if you want to go down that route, I believe Aubameyang was a January.
He was, I believe, yeah.
Yeah,
there's a few others in there. I think Adebayo might have been. Reyes was, I think.
Yeah, Reyes was. Yeah. So I'm like, I do, but no, I think you're spot on, Neil, in terms of what he's added to pivot from a player that would have cost us so much more. And again, it's all if buts and maybes. We've seen what Chelsea do to players, and then you put them in new environments, and they become new men. We mentioned Mo Salah earlier. He was in that environment. He left. He come back, different man. Kevin De Bruyne in that environment left, different man. And we've got our one now that plays up front, and just going back on him. The bit in the first half. I know, Neil, you put in the WhatsApp that you were, I missed it, but that chest down where he black-heeled it to Ben White. When Ben White received the ball, obviously he did the next bit and he crossed it, and then I think we hit the side netting or whatever. But he turned around to Kai Havertz as if to be like, yeah, now, all right, mate. He's on one. He's had his Weetabix this morning, because Ben White didn't expect him to play the back heel. He probably thought he's going to go back sideways or whatever that way. And he's like, oh, hello. It's like we were saying, this is a new man. It's a new player up there. And again, I know you said Martin Odegaard, and this is what I love. We all have different man of the matches. I was going to give mine to Havertz until second half. Declan Rice, like you said, he missed that sitter.
Rice engine comes along.
He missed that sitter in the first half, and I thought he's not having a very good game here. A bit like Trossard, but then second half, he's just the switch, the flick of the switch, and he is remarkable. He is remarkable, and that goal, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I really don't. I haven't seen a midfielder run through like that and then finish with such poise and grace since the great man who is arguably, he's in the top 5 Arsenal players I've ever seen in my life, old Patrick Vieira. It was Vieira-esque. And, Roy Keane a few weeks back was saying about, well, for that price, I won't do the accent, I don't want to upset our Irish listeners. He was like, for that price, he doesn't score enough goals or make enough assists for me. Well, he's nearly on double digits for both, Royce. So what you're saying now, mate?
He's overtaken Granit Xhaka, 7 goals, 8 assists. He's played 23 of his 35 starts in the number 6 position. I'd like to see what your stats were, Roy, when you were playing that many in the deep line midfield position. But also a lot of those goals, James, have been late. Man U, Luton, this game. Yeah. He's that's just a pure representative of the energy, right?
As we've talked about before. Sorry, Neil, I know you wanted to jump in. I promise I'll wrap this up, and then I promise. We've all said before, Gundogan for Man City. Well, after January, he just used to flick us. He'd become a completely different. He would become the most clutch person, and you'd be like, for God's sake, fucking Gundogan to get like, will you just stop it now? You're winding me up with how good you were, because I'm like, he weren't a bad player in the early months of the season, but when it got to, we got to win the league now time. I mean, that last season, he was better than Haaland towards the end. He was just like, put the team on my back like a backpack. I'll carry us through. Don't worry. Well, I'm like, Rice is, he's got that mantle. He's like, I'll score these goals, boys. I'll set these goals up.
Yeah.
He just don't get tired as well. He doesn't get tired.
Unbelievable.
Crazy.
Yeah. Crazy.
I thought Xhaka was a marathon man, but this guy, he's even better.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. He deserved his man of the match as well. I mean, he kept going, didn't he, for that final goal? It was brilliant. Jesus did well there as well. Neil, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, James interestingly mentioned Havertz, the bit that I missed between Ben White. But it wasn't Havertz. Also, there was another bit where he, in the penalty box, he heads the ball down. It would have been a great assist with his header. And it just that just shows me his strength. And he's such an imposing figure up front now and in the box. Well, everywhere, really. But I know I think I'm a bit like Jack with Odegaard, the way I go on about Havertz. There's so much that I specifically watch him now in games, probably more than anyone else. So I just want to see what he's doing. And he's involved in so much. And surprisingly, he's also involved in defensive parts of the game as well. I think he's just getting better and better every time I see him. He might not have scored or assisted the other day, but he does a lot. And yeah, just as you touched on the third goal, I thought that was actually a good piece of play by Jesus. He did hold the ball up really well, really did. But it was all about Rice, wasn't it? That goal, Jesus Christ, that guy's. I don't know what he eats, but I don't know what Saka eats, but Rice and him, wow, we are so blessed. I don't think we got to appreciate this. I never fully appreciated the Invincibles. I'm not going to make that same mistake. I really appreciate the players we've got. My goodness me, we've got some bangers we have.
Yeah. Fantastic. And his run from deep there, I mean, he's way away from Jesus when he gets the ball. I mean, his run from deep is just fantastic. And it's not the first time he did it in the game either. He just you could tell, he said at the end of the game, I really wanted to make up for my miss in the first half. And
he did it for the Trossard goal. He did it for the Trossard goal.
Yeah,
right.
It was same thing. Yeah, exactly. And just, he's really learning how to move for in an 8 position. He's learning how to do it. And I thought Arteta's comments were really interesting. He said, we thought his goal output was going to be very related to the spaces he was going to occupy on the pitch, but then it's something else to do in this league. He's doing it. It's a credit to him. But then he alludes to the fact that Rice also says that with the number 8, the manager wants me to make these off the ball runs, and I've never done that before. He says, I've never done it in my life. It's my first year learning it. Never done it. Never played there before. Imagine how good he's going to be next year. It's just incredible when you read it. And then Arteta kind of goes, I think there's much more in him. I think we have to put him in these positions more, explore the talent that he has. He needs to recognise these situations earlier. But it all alludes to the fact that I think in this system he's almost wasted at the 6, to be honest. I think because his best attributes in terms of off the ball running and winning the ball back high and his engine, that's the open space 8 position. I mean, it really is. It really is. And although Arteta probably saw a left footer there to distribute out, I mean, Neil, you spoke about the left back not having, an impact on the left winger because constant changing. I think the left 8 might have done the same. He's only started 12 games there, so we've had Havertz there. And in 4 of the 5 games that we've lost this season, Rice has played at the 6. And I know that means Havertz has played at the 8, which is also probably a contributing factor. But overall, I think that's a sign that the future of this team is where he's at the 8, at least for the short term of 2 years.
You're right, Jack.
Before he gets older and his engine, he adjusts his play and then moves back naturally. I know he's played the 6 the whole time in his career, but he's an 8 in this system. I mean, he just every part of him is an 8. He's shouting it out.
Jack, you have said it. You summed it up best for both those players. You said that Kai's best.
So I think we might have stuttered on Neil there, but I think he's going to say what I thought he's going to say.
Much better the 8 than the 6. Oh, did I freeze it?
Yeah, you did, but I know exactly what you said. You're saying about Rice being the 8 and Havertz being further up.
Yeah, exactly. So the Havertz 8, no, and the Rice 6, no. Not in this current setup. You're absolutely spot on. They are much better, much more productive, and the numbers don't lie. It's there for everyone to see. And you're right. I think while he's got the engine, we don't need anyone else in that position at the moment. I was hoping it might be someone else, a young lad that doesn't get a chance, but it's not going to happen, is it now? But I just feel that, no, Rice is the man to do it.
Yeah. And
until he slows down. You're right.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And then your point on Havertz is brilliant. And what I think really what outlines him being like the perfect number 9 profile is the 2 shots on target that he had. One is the run off the ball, down the side, just like he did for the penalty, and burst shot touch on the volley. The other is back to goal, 2 players behind him, turns, swivels, hits it, keeper makes a good save. And there's not a lot of number 9s. We've not got one. Gabriel Jesus can't do those 2 things. He can't make that run in behind because he doesn't get to the ball. And and he might be able to do that, but he takes too many touches to get the shot off. So he's the perfect number 9 profile. James, it alludes to the fact, what do we do in the summer, though? Because we all talked about wanting a number 9. And let's be honest, I mean, this guy playing like this from the start of the season, which I think he can do, I don't think numbers are really going to be concerned with him, because I think he will get the numbers. He won't get the Haaland type numbers, but there's not many out there that do. So then it does really allude to the fact, and I'm strongly feeling the left side is somewhere where we might look to in the front three. I think Trossard's amazing, but he's not a 3 game a week player, not from the start. I mean, that's not offensive to him. I mean, he's just not. He's not that. It's just the same for Jorginho. You'd say the same thing. So, James, it makes you think a little bit, doesn't it?
Yes, and again, I feel like I contradict.
Sorry, we're getting a little bit pause in here, guys. Carry on, James. I'll get him back on.
After the season that he's had this year, since January, and then going into a home Euros where he is probably going to play up front for the host of that Euros. If Germany do win it, I don't think they will, but if Germany do win it with him leading the line and he's contributed in some way, for us to then buy somebody, which we all want, but be like, well, you're a secondary option now, mate. I don't think he takes it. I don't think, us as a club would do. I know Mikel is ruthless, but he's ruthless when you've shown that he can't trust you anymore. When you give him a glimmer of doubt, it's very hard for him to, Fabio Vieira is a prime example. I still believe that there's a player in Fabio Vieira. When he come on the other day, he had that chance and I thought that was a bit of a nice little turn snapshot, but it's taken him a long time to go back to him. The game had to be very, very secured before he brought him on. There's been times there where you're thinking, well, we could do with Vieira type here. He might unlock a door, but he's still, ever since that red card, and then when he went down and played in that youth game, and apparently he was dreadful. He acted like he was bigger than this, and he missed a penalty, strolled up to take a penalty and completely missed it, didn't he? And it was just like, he's completely disrespected the fact that he's been demoted here. Instead of going, I need to show out and win my trust back, it was like he was sulking basically playing in that youth game. And yeah, I don't think that we would be as ruthless with Kai Havertz as what we think and what we should do. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, as much as there's 5 subs and there's, like I put in the group yesterday, the Champions League next season, you'll have to win 19 games to get to the final. 19. So it is actually a league now. It is a league. It's basically half of a Prem to win a European trophy. So I do not begrudge having as many fantastic players as we can possibly have. But yeah, I do believe that he will look at it and go, I'm starting here now. Next season, I am the numero 1 striker for the Arsenal. And I back him. I would say whoever we sign, whoever that may be, take it off me. But that's what I want from all of them. You know, we've seen it before, Jack, where we had players that they knew they were comfortable regardless. Aubameyang knew no matter how much I'm ineffective in a game, because yes, I score goals, but other than scoring goals, I offer absolutely zilch else. But, you know, there's no accountability because he's playing me next week because everyone else that sees bobbins. So I was still
Ozil's another one. Ozil.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Ozil, you know, Ozil's problem, Neil, was any game that was north of the Watford gap, he didn't want to go. That was it. That was his biggest problem.
His back started spasming.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think Havertz. I think I said on yesterday that I don't do transfers, but we need to increase big time.
Yeah.
We have to push for both Prem and the Champions League, and obviously I want the FA Cup too. That's a personal thing, but we have to, as a club, press for both. Whatever happens this season, whether we win it or we come second, we have to press for both next season. And to do that, we're going to need extra players. I have no problem getting that upfront player at all. I think Kai's place in that position is not going to be usurped simply because Arteta does trust him. If he didn't trust him, he wouldn't have experimented with him at the beginning of the season, tried him in all different roles, pushed Partey into an inverted right back to accommodate him. Yeah. And now that he's actually producing the goods, there is no way in hell he's going to say, oh, right, you're second fiddle now to whoever we get in. I don't think it's going to happen. I think we get that player in the middle to enhance us so that Kai can maybe have a rest now and again or vice versa, or substitute him or vice versa, but also rotate, because I still think we are still very finely tuned. We don't have more than maybe a real good 13, 14 maybe at best. And then once we lose certain players, I think we would suffer. Can you imagine starting without Saliba, without Odegaard, without Havertz now? It cripples us and even Rice, we are too finely tuned and too finely balanced. We need to get those 3 or 4 players in that the levels are so similar that there's not a drop, and we can just maintain the same rhythm. And it's pretty much like Man City. They lose a couple of players, it doesn't really affect them. That's what we need to attain. And we can only do that by getting the players in. It doesn't mean that the players that we have now are going to get pushed to the side. I think they're all going to play an equal role. And honestly, Arteta fully trusts Havertz. You can see it. The way he loves Raya, I think he loves Havertz as well. So yeah. I wouldn't be worried about it.
I think if you disregard Reece and Eddie, we've got 5 attackers that he trusts, and we need 6. Right, we need 6. And I know we want a winger and a striker, but logic tells me when a manager has been here for 5 years and he's spent less money on attacking players than he has on goalkeepers, I'm disregarding the Havertz purchase because he signed him as an 8. I mean, we all know he signed him as an 8. I know he's coming as a 9. I'm sure he thought he could be an option at a 9, but he's not. He didn't sign him to start every week as a 9, which is what he's doing at the moment. He signed him every week to start in the 8 and mould him into the 8, and it's not happening. And he's done brilliant at adapting to that and bringing him into the 9. But that's why I think one of a winger or striker is what we'll get. But he only started starters now. We signed 4 players last season: Raya, Timber, Havertz and Rice. They all came in to start. Timber was going to start. He's going to start almost every game at left back, in my opinion. So we'll sign a starter as a forward. I personally, in my personal opinion, think the opening is in the wide left position. That's just my opinion in terms of the way the setup is. I think when you watch games, it's really hard to see next season how Saka and Havertz wouldn't start games. In most games, you know, they're touchwood very, very fit and they're very, very consistent. So I think it's hard to see that. So in my opinion, I think a manager that's only spent 70 odd million on attacking players in 5 years, is he going to go and spend double that plus 100, 120 million on 2 players in one window? I find that quite unlikely, but he might do it on one. He might do a really big purchase on one, and that's what's interesting.
The big thing for me as well, Jack, is okay. You know, again, dealing with hypotheticals, which a lot of times I don't like doing. But if you look around the market in Europe, I would say Arsenal are in a fantastic position to go and splash what I would say is Declan Rice style money on the exact player that you want for that forward line, because Barcelona, they're not going to look for a striker. Real Madrid are getting Mbappe. They're not going to look for a striker. Bayern Munich have got Kane. City have got Haaland and Alvarez. United, as much as they need one, are they going to get one at the top tier? Probably not with the level that they're at. Chelsea, are they going to get one at the top tier? Probably. They potentially could tempt Osimhen away because he supported Chelsea when he was a fan. So I give him, when he was a kid. So I can see that one there. PSG, after they sell Mbappe, they're going to want to spend, but they're not going to attract, someone of a caliber of an Mbappe. They'll probably get someone young that they can develop into a new Mbappe, but they're not going to attract someone these young, promising attacking players around the world are probably like, where can I go where I'm going to play constantly? I'm in one of the best cities in the world. I'm at a club that, for what, everything in their trajectory is only going upwards. And I can add to that. I think the biggest thing that we did last summer, Jack, was obviously signing Declan Rice. This was a player that Man City were in for. And I always said to you, we'll get this deal over the line because he doesn't want to leave London. That was the biggest pull, was that we've got London here and you don't want to leave and uproot his family. But that's what we need, we need to be going for players that these other clubs would like and want. And I think we've got a huge advantage here. Okay, it could be famous last words. This could bite me back in the arse when we sign somebody and everyone goes, oh, is that who you thought, James? Probably not. But we could really, take basically whoever we want, because we are in the strongest position for that caliber of individual that we're looking for. I think I look from within the league. City don't need one. All these other clubs need one, but they're not at that level. They've not got Champions League to dangle at them. They've not got London to dangle at them. They haven't got a project to dangle at them like we have. So I hope that we own our size and our advantage here, and we come back. We'll be doing podcasts all throughout the summer, Jack, won't we? We love this stuff. Neil, you might come on every now and then. I doubt it, but you might show up,
We love it. We love it.
So,
it's so interesting under Arteta. Yeah, I'm not sure it is under a manager.
No. Well, because we're actually, as much as we praise old Daddy Wenger on this show, we never used to spend this kind of, Jack. We never used to spend this kind of money. That we had financial shackles, mate. Whether they were imposed on him or he imposed them. Even when the financial shackles were slightly released, he still was like, I want to do it this way. Which again, I can't go at somebody who's got principles and is maybe stubborn. Because I'm very principled and stubborn in my own life. So, my life isn't elite level sport, but I've still got things that I won't budge on that annoy people. So, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting, his squad development stuff, and you made a great point. We're gonna compete with the big players, we are, and hopefully we've done our work with Edu and Mikel already, and we're gonna find out with that. So it's really interesting. But in terms of this game, I think Rice deserves his plaudits, and the man of the match stuff. I'll reluctantly give it to him over Odegaard, but he was purring when he Odegaard in this. You should have scored though. Again, it was a lovely little move, dink over to Ben White, and then Ben White crossed it. I thought it went in, but it hit the side net. But Odegaard was fantastic again. But again, there's so many players that were. I felt Saliba was fantastic at the back, other than that silly defensive moment as well. And that's what the beauty of the partnerships. When one's a little bit off, or Gabriel was a little bit off, the other one steps up and does really fantastic well. Next weekend, boys, away Old Trafford at Old Trafford against Man United, a big game. We haven't got a great record there. I think we have won there once under Mikel Arteta. I think we did. I think we won 1-0 there in the.
Yeah, it was the one where we played El Neni and Partey together.
Yeah,
and they just couldn't get through. It was just like play everyone that can run, because they've got nobody that can run.
Yeah.
And that was one of them that was one of Willian's best ever games for us. One. He was fantastic at that game.
Yeah. I remember bits of it. I remember it was in the white and the marble hall shirt, as you call it. But but Neil, we've got to go there and get the same result as that, really, and we've got to go and perform. I know their metrics aren't good, Man United, but they do have a lot of players coming back because they've got obviously a cup final to play for, and they also still have Europe to play for to try and get in. They can't make Champions League anymore, but they can make Europa League. So. Thoughts on it? Give me your predictions as well. I personally think we stick as is, and last time we won there, we played Thomas Partey in midfield. I think we've got to play him again personally if he's fit. I think that's the big question mark. Beyond that, I think it probably picks itself out. I know you touched on Tomiyasu a little bit. I do think he's really grown in the last few games because he's not been fit, has he? And he's come in, he's been starting. I thought aerially he was so good in the second. I think he won 6 aerial duels. So good in the second half against Semenyo, who's 6'1", to be fair, and that was obviously their target, to just hit him with aerials to go long against us. But you ain't winning aerials against Tomiyasu, as simple as that, really. And he's so good, and I think he's going to be our 5th choice defender next season. So basically, I think he'll be the cover. He might well be the cover for anyone in any 4 of those positions. Yeah. Name another team that's got a player that can do that. I mean, City might have one because they're doped, but for 17 million, fantastic. I mean, brilliant. But sorry, Neil, Man United away, massive. We've got to win. City played before us against Fulham. Iwobi, Leno, Willian. But yeah,
I'm hoping Leno has a game of his life. I'm just hoping he does. He's still, he'll be an Arsenal player that day. He will be an Arsenal player that day, without a shadow of a doubt. Hopefully he can do something. We'll see. But yeah, it doesn't matter what they do. We still have to win. As we all know, we have to take them to the last game of the season. We can only do that by getting the win. So we've got no choice. So my prediction is always going to be a win anyway, but I would not change a thing. And I think Tomiyasu is the player. He's out of Kirion, Cine. He now is by far streets ahead of them as far as I'm concerned. He's not just defensively. I mean, he was running forward and he was looping balls into the net, into the penalty box. He was doing all sorts. I really like him. He's my T101 Terminator. He's great, and I think he picks himself, as does everyone else, as far as I'm concerned. I think the only tweak potentially is what I said at the last pod. Potentially Martinelli Trossard, but Trossard does a moment like that. I'm sure he'd love to do it against Man United at Old Trafford. I'd stick with the same. No change. Partey have to take risks. No point putting Jorginho on now. He wouldn't have played Partey in 2 90-minute matches in a row. I think he did. Is that right? Am I right on that one?
Did he play full 90 yesterday, did he? Oh, sorry.
Did he?
Yeah, you might well have done. Yeah, I think you're right. I don't remember him coming off.
No. But anyway, whatever it is, he's doing a lot more than he used to, because he was one of those that after 70 minutes, you take him off. That's how it was at Atletico. That's how they kind of managed him, didn't they? They would take him off early, but we're playing him, and I think there's a reason for it. So he's definitely part of the plans until the end of the season. As far as I'm concerned, we have to keep him. So yeah, I'd keep everyone as is. I think we're too much for them. I know Old Trafford have always been a pain. They've been a bane to us. They obviously they're going to give us a fight. They don't want us to win the league. Of course they don't. I'm surprised at that, because end of the day, City should be their rivals, but they're not. I think for United, it's more about Liverpool than City have ever been, as far as I'm concerned. So I think it's going to be a tough game. They're all going to be tough games to the pressure, but we have to win. I think we've got too much for them. I'm going 2-0, and I will say I'll say Saka 2-0.
Love that. Well, James, Ten Hag's still talking about the last game against us, so he's obviously going to be really up for this one. Sounds like he may well be there next season, but I don't know. You don't know what's going on there. But they definitely have players coming back. Martinez coming back. I think Luke Shaw's coming back. They don't play a style where they dominate the ball typically, but they are very dangerous on the counter attack, which we have to be alert to. And we've obviously shown a little bit more vulnerability in that, but I think the only way to go about it is to go there and try to dominate, like we did in the last game. The Spurs game for me was, that was the first big away win this season against sort of a big six type team, and that could be, hopefully, touch wood, huge for us, in terms of the belief to go there and do it. But again, Old Trafford is a whole different ball game in terms of the team and the club. But James, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree with what Neil said. The majority of them that go there aren't from Manchester, so they don't class. When you've got your majority of your season ticket fan base coming from Ingatestone, Harlow, they're not. They're lucky that if it weren't the fact that you get a direct train there from London, they wouldn't know where Manchester is. So they don't really see Manchester City as a rival to them. Their generational rival, much like me, is us. I still see Man United as the biggest in terms of our Premier League history and rival. I still see Man United. Them lot down the road are a noisy neighbour. They're not a rival. Man United and us went toe to toe. Like these lot now try and picture and paint this whole thing about Liverpool versus Man City. I'm like, well, yeah, but they all hug and kiss each other at the end. That didn't happen until it was finished. Wenger and Ferguson only really showed respect to each other once it was done. It was battle, it was war. There weren't all this friendly, in the interviews. Oh, he's very good though, isn't he? I respect him so much. No, they hated each other. I remember once there was some kind of comment, and I remember Wenger went, "Well, we all think we've got the best looking wife at home, don't we?" About something Ferguson had said, which I was like, "Well, that's scathing." Wenger never goes scathing. So I was like, "Oh, okay," and. But yeah, getting onto it, I hope that obviously we play the team and not the occasion. They will want to stop us because as much as every team has insufferable fans, we are definitely up there. Because if we do win this league, I will not shut up. I will not stop. I'll be on it 24/7. Pop notifications on my phone to get me up whilst I'm asleep just to rattle more people. But I believe we're going to go there. I believe we're going to win. I put this shirt up because I couldn't find my gold one. And I do, but this is it. I believe again it's going to be number 11, 1-0. So it's going to be Martinelli coming off the bench to win us the game 1-0.
All right, we'll take that all day. Take that all day. Yeah, look, it's a massive one, and he got one there last season and it got disallowed. So and then we know what happened. So yeah, so it's a massive game, really, really big, and but yeah, hopefully we can go there confident. We've had a good run, a good response since the Villa game, haven't we? You gave 1-0, James. Neil, you went 2-0. I'll go 2-1. Arsenal, Odegaard. Me usual, and we'll see what we do. Where are they dropping points, Neil? Okay, where are the club on steroids going to drop points if we actually are able to win these games?
Well, the likelihood is they're not going to.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
that's the boat I'm in. Yeah,
they're not going to. But look, whilst it's improbable, nothing's impossible. You could have one day where something goes wrong, which is probably maybe out of the ordinary. Maybe something they get a red card. It just messes them up, which is again unlikely. But you never know. I've not known City actually to have many players sent off. They've always seemed to be finishing with 11, don't they?
They're like us in that sense. They don't make a lot of stupid tackles. Kovacic, exception aside.
Exactly. That was another one, wasn't it? That could have been a leg breaker twice.
Yeah.
Anyway.
They get a lot of 2 yellows, but not a lot of straight reds.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking, it's maybe fate's on our side. Something like that happens, or again, I don't wish injuries on players, but someone might get injured and that could unbalance them a little bit. I don't know. It's difficult to see where Fulham, for me, I think Fulham might be the only one. Tottenham ain't going to do us any favours. West Ham, the way they fell apart against Chelsea. Normally I'd say West Ham could have a shout, even at their ground, to even get a draw. But then the way they capitulated to Chelsea the other night, it's like, So who you got left?
Leaving, isn't they?
Exactly. So who you got left? Fulham. Who knows? They're at Fulham's ground. I thought when Fulham played Liverpool recently, they actually held their own for quite a big chunk of the game. If somehow they can do something like that, and this time just protect that goal at all costs and do us a favour, fellow London club. I don't think there's many daggers between us and Fulham. Maybe they're one of the two out of the 3 left that might want to do us a favour anyway, and play for pride. Try and get something over the potential champions, arguably the best team in the world at the moment. They're coming back off a treble. they're going for a fourth consecutive top flight win, which has never been done ever in the history of English football. So there's a bit of pride there. But for me, it's Fulham, the only place I can see it. If it doesn't happen there, I'm thinking, I think that might be it.
Do you not think, Neil, it would be so them to help us win the league, though?
Who's that?
Them lot, the muck. It would be so
dreadful, aren't they? They're just so bad.
But to me, I'm like,
but that is your Spursy moment,
that's
right?
it. That's it. Yeah, I'm like, you fumble so much that you've,
I can't see it, James, but it's funny.
There's just a little smidgen of me in my head that I'm like, you are that dopey of a club that you do it. Yeah.
It could happen, but that would be the funny. I'll take that over any of the other three, of course.
Yeah.
But I think I put more trust in Fulham than them lot, to be honest.
Oh God, I'd put more trust in under sixes than I would this current. Yeah. I mean, God Almighty. I had that. Look, I was out yesterday, but the game was on, and I mean, I saw obviously Richarlison come off the bench and cause some chaos at the end. He completely changed it for. But I was sat there going, bloody hell! I would be ashamed. I would be ashamed.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this? What is this? The way they go on about that Christian Romero. I know you mentioned it earlier, Jack, but I'm like, but he won a World Cup. I'm like, no, that's a bloke that needs to go to Lionel Messi every time he sees him and shake his hand and carry his bags. Because I'm like, he would have been nowhere near it. I'm like, this guy is shocking. He is shocking.
Yeah.
That goalkeeper, he's the best goalkeeper in the league, is he? Okay. All right then. Yeah.
No, ridiculous. Congratulations, David Raya. Golden Glove, best goalkeeper in the league. That's the real one. It'd be interesting.
Catch a cold, that Vicario.
No, exactly. If they somehow lost to Burnley at home, which is probably not going to happen, Burnley would set up, if Nottingham Forest lost to Chelsea, an absolute scorcher against Nottingham Forest on the last day of the season, which would be incredible. But I think Spurs genuinely are more likely to drop to 7th than they are challenged for 4th or something. They're dreadful. And they're just falling, aren't they, all over the place. So all these Spurs fans going, play the academy. I was like, you don't need to. Just do what you do. It's who you are, mate. Just play as you are. You'll get battered either way. That's the frustration. But yeah, I don't know. Pep, this is what Pep does, isn't it, James? He knows how to see things out. They're faultless. It's in the running. They all their players know how to do it. It's frustrating to think and get hope up almost.
Yeah, I mean, like Neil mentioned, they've done a treble. They're arguably looking at a double. So. It's just, got to sit and wait. I'm still, first game of this season was the 11th of August and it was Manchester City versus Burnley. I did my first podcast on the 9th where I predicted everything. I still put Arsenal top of the league. So I'm not budging from what I said on the 9th of August. I still think somehow, some way we're doing it. And I can't wait for that to happen. And I can't wait for all of us to see it and enjoy it.
All right, I'll take it out to your boys' positivity.
Yeah. Well,
I'll take it.
I know I've probably lost all trust from our listeners here now, but it would be so them to help us win a league. It really would. They are that type of, the way that all their fans and everything were like, play kids, and they've bought all these Man City tops and everything, haven't they, that they're going to wear and everything. That is ridiculous. I would never pay money to another club to put their shirt on. But I'm like, we'll be cheering their goals more than them. Yeah, probably, if they score any. It's ridiculous.
It's a weird one, isn't it? Yeah, I don't.
That's in jest, by the way. I wouldn't, I'll never cheer anything.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'll be hoping for a David Moyes last hurrah, but I don't know. Yeah, like you said, we got to win against.
They might. The way he's going, mate, they might sack him before.
I know, it's weird.
They really don't like it. I'm like, they really don't like it.
No.
They're on the verge of running on the pitch again, them lot.
Yeah, I know.
They are really, they've had enough. They've really had enough.
I know, they're changing things there, aren't they, big time. But we're at Purely Arsenal FP on Twitter, YouTube. Subscribe to us there, Purely Arsenal. You can find all our ats on Twitter at Purely Arsenal FP. I'll put them in the bio there. We'll post the podcast and then obviously be back after the game at Old Trafford against Man United. Thank you for listening, Neil, James. You're keeping the faith. I'm going to try to keep the faith. Got to beat United first, and then we got to wait and see. Haven't we? We wait and see and keep our fingers crossed and toes and everything else. Up the Arsenal, boys. Up the Arsenal.